Great. Introducing now Sam Schmidt. I hope I'm getting my German right in here. He's a mine engineer who graduated from the University of Adelaide. He began his career an underground at Broken Hill before spending 5 years with Rio Tinto Iron Ore and across drill and blast, production, and autonomous haulage projects. Since joining Roy Hill, now Hancock Iron Ore, in 2017, he worked across a full spectrum of mine planning, from weekly and short-term scheduling all the way through to long-term and strategic planning. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Bruno. All right. I am here to talk to you about Strategic Planning Unleashed, harnessing MineMax for Hancock Iron Ore, or if I strip out the ChatGPT derived title, Bruno's asked me to just have a bit of a chat about how we've managed to use MineMax to help us solve some of our issues and get some better results. So just a quick background on who Hancock Iron Ore is. We are an iron ore miner in the Pilbara. We're formerly known as Roy Hill and Atlas Iron. We've recently just merged into the one. So Roy Hill is our largest site. We do about 1 million tons of TMM today. We've got 4 ROMs and 5 crushers. We've got processing plant, rail network, and port facilities. It's probably closest attributed to like a strip mining operation. We've got multiple pit regions, and those pit regions have pretty varied geology. So we've got hematites, we've got girthites, we've got detritus and other geological words. And it is pretty backfill critical. We don't have a lot of waste space available because we're essentially strip mining across the whole mining lease. The Atlas operations are a little bit different. They're probably more of a traditional pit style. They're deeper pits. They've sort of got a narrower ore body, which is steeply dipping. And they're road hauled and blended at Roy Hill. So I've got a few pictures there for you so we can see. We can't see my mouse. That's all right. But we can see just a typical mine site. It's pretty shallow. That's at Roy Hill. You can see our lovely pink process plant. We like to paint things pink. Does support breast cancer research, apparently. So there you go, which is good. Got a pink train there, and that's our port facility as well. So just a few more pictures there. So we can see the big picture there is of the Atlas operation, which is sort of that skinnier style pit, and then a couple of our other pits as well. Just, everyone loves a good picture of a mining pit, so enjoy. So what did we want to solve? So from our perspective, the iron ore market's actually changed a fair bit recently. We're seeing much lower discounts on lower grade products. So what we wanted to do was review how our products are positioned in the market and whether we should change that positioning. And we also want to, with that test, laptop falling off. We also wanted to test those multi-product strategies. We need to make sure we optimize TMM and pitch sequences. And we also want to maximize our MPV. So you can sort of say we're basically asking where should we be, and we've got a lot of competitors, a lot of bubbles, and we can sort of sit anywhere in the blue box in that picture. Basically, where do we want to be? Where are we going to earn the most money? But there's also an aspect of that of managing risk as well, which is a challenge too. The other one we wanted to look at, we've got an option to upgrade our existing plant infrastructure to improve the grade that comes out. It's a pretty large capital spend, and there's a few alternate configurations available. So we wanted MineMax to determine if and when we should initiate that upgrade. So I've got a little table there showing option A and B. Essentially, option A allows us a better upgrade but lower yield, and option B is the reverse. So, all right, the approach. So we had a process flow model with lots of processes, as MineMax always has. Some pit precedences, a lot of bench constraints. We set up using the new bench multiplier tool that MineMax has got in it, which was really useful. We've got a few of our geology/regions where the below water table material is really, really challenging to dewater. So that was really good. So we're able to use that to actually slow them down quite considerably in those periods to help make a more realistic schedule there. As always, lots of constraints. We set up our stockpiling to account for the different scenarios. So we sort of had high grade, blend, and low grade stockpiles just to allow us to adapt to the different changing product scenarios that we were working through. We had some additional cutbacks to be included if they're profitable. So we were letting MineMax sort of decide in the varied grade scenarios whether to bring those marginal pits in or not, and using the capital expenditure tool for the beneficiation plant. So a few challenges that we had. Obviously, the TMM profile is a little bit challenging. The business doesn't want a TMM profile that has limited, that's sort of fluctuating up and down a lot. We want a reasonably steady TMM profile. So sort of a few solves and some minimum constraints required to sort of manage that the best. The number of blocks and benches, I've created a little cartoon of about how my computer felt at one point when the MineMax solver had simply too many blocks. So one of the things we did there is we changed this super benching. We actually reduced the number of blocks by to a third of what we had. And the solve time was dramatic, 12 hours down to 1 hour, which also allowed us to use a much wider solving window as well. So that was really big win. Our pit cutback setup, we actually did some cutbacks just with 90-degree walls for the pits in the very far distant future and just let the optimizer sort of pick its own way rather than sort of pre-forcing it. A lot of our pits are being very similar. They have a very similar sort of pit optimization value when we do the pit ops. So yeah, we just sort of let it choose based on the rules. Completing pits, we need to make sure our pits are completed. We obviously need to backfill them, but also we want to be able to turn the dewatering infrastructure on and turn it on somewhere else. So we did some precedences and max active pit constraints. I found a really useful tool in MineMax as well, just to help close those pits out as we needed. The last challenge I had was the quantity of data and reports the business needs. I've got a little cartoon of that as well, wondering if anyone really needs it. And if anyone's got a solution to that, I would love to know. Everyone seems to need a lot of data. Cool. So the solution. So in 2024, we ran over 50 scenarios for strategic. And in 2025, we ran just 6. The 6 being essentially just testing different, what the different members of the board thought the market might do. As you can see, a little meme there. Last year, I ran the 50 scenarios and management picked the first one. So thanks, management. But we managed to do all this and we managed to deliver it early, which was really good. So we applied an updated product strategy and pit cutoff grades with the optimized pit sequence adopted. We reduced our annual TMM and we reduced our capital spend replacing diggers at end of life. We got more product tons overall, which we were able to leverage through blending synergies between the different sites. So it brought some pits and strips in at the lower cost sites. And our updated pit sequence actually improved our waste placement too, and we reduced our closure void by 15%. So quite a sizable chunk out of that too. And you can just see in the graph there, the life of mine plan profile, the 2025 lump with the orange line maintains the shipped product tons profile for a lot longer and a lot higher, particularly in the later years. So we also managed to establish our beneficiation plant timeframe. We did check the result by forcing the plant to start early and later to give the business some confidence in the capital expenditure tool in MineMax, which it did, so that was good. The optimizer controlled our configuration, so it did run a bit in setup B initially before changing to setup A, which was the improved upgrades once we sort of ran out of the little last bits of high grade there and we were beneficiating the low grade. Just a big note there, when we are using your capital spend, I did notice that the look ahead window is really, really important. You need to make sure it's long enough to actually see the full value of that capital spend. If it's too short, it will push it back a lot later because it can't see that value in the future. So that did actually change it a little bit. So that was an important lesson I learned there. The optimizer selected the cutbacks and timelines for the optimum MPV. Some pits it mined ASAP, like Bravo 205, really liked the grade there, and others were mined at the very end of mine life, just in time, like some of those others. And we also use the reporting in MineMax. I set up a bunch of reports, and that just makes it really transparent and quick when we're just flipping between the scenarios. So what I've learned is, my picture's covered my text, that's annoying. Oh well. So firstly, super benching. Really, really important. Save your runtime. Playing in the right size sandpit for your life of mine. So does it really matter in 2032 if you're at bench B, block A? Probably not, even though some people seem to think it does. So really important that you consider what you're trying to solve. I think was mentioned earlier as well. You really got to look at that. And to me as well, it's just back to that question of accuracy versus precision. Sure, I can precisely tell you that I'm going to mine this block in 2045, but probably not that accurate by the time we get there. So another one is to use the minimum of minimum constraints. Avoid everyone's favorite there is no I can't find a solution error in MineMax, which leaves you back there. So really important. And I mean, the question there to ask yourself is, if you are forcing MineMax to do something, chances are it's probably an NPV negative thing. Reasons why you might do it, for examples with us, we really wanted to force some TMM. We partly want to make sure we've got ore exposed to give us market agility, so that if the market does change, we're able to pivot back to a higher grade product if we need. And on that as well, we also want to make sure we have a stable labor force. As I said earlier, we don't really want our TMM to be going down and up and down and up and down and up. The other one we found is staying in the market. We've got some owners that buy around about 40% of our product, and it's really important that we stay in the market with them, even though they require a higher grade product that actually isn't that most NPV positive solution, but it's part of what the business wants to do. So use the look ahead window wisely. That's a really important one. You want to balance between solve times and quality solutions. I sort of found that maybe 4 or 5 years was quite a good look ahead window for us. When I started pushing out a little bit further, I wasn't really seeing a drastic change to the NPV overall. So that was that one there. And just key points, your window needs to be long enough to see the value in your largest pit and see the value in your capital spend. And there's also just a slight question there, which our business is facing in terms of what to choose, is your cash flow versus your NPV. Do you want money now or do you want value later? And your solving window sort of solves that. Do you want to make all your money? Do you want to make less money for the first 10 years to make it back in 5 years? Are you willing to take that market risk? So by using your look ahead window wisely, you can sort of answer that question too. And then the final one there, which is kind of cut out my pictures, but stop running scenarios. MineMax has got you. So that was one of the key reasons I was able to go from 50 scenarios down to 6. Just save your time. You actually can go to the answer. People asking me all the time, what happens if we park up a digger? I don't need to tell you. MineMax will tell you what the optimum TMM profile is to make your product strategy. What should I do? Can you run scenarios to tell me whether I should blend my products together from these mine sites or just sell multiple different products? It's cool. I can plug that into MineMax and MineMax can tell me the answer. I don't need to run 5 scenarios for you to tell you that answer. And also, obviously, a big one, when to spend capital for your plant upgrades, purchasing digger, stuff like that. Really useful. And I actually found it was quite interesting writing this slide here. Actually challenged me, and I actually went back and challenged myself and made a number of changes to my MineMax scenario while I did this, and challenge that, and have actually improved that as well. So what's next in the world of Hancock Iron Ore? So we've got some new deposits that we're going to look at. There's a bunch of infrastructure and capital spends required with that. And I was actually really interested in the waste dumping chat before, because that's another thing we're trying to build a lot more detail into that waste sequence into our model because of our backfill constraints and because of our closure constraints to try and reduce those costs. Thank you.